back again. Still into this William Blake, Richard Rorty thing. We're on page 82 of Richard Rorty's Contingency, Irony, and Solidarity. For some reason, it always takes me a second to remember this book's title. I'm not sure what that means. The second part is called Ironism and Theory, and then within the second part, the chapter that we're in is called Private Irony and Liberal Hope. And so we're on page 82. I don't know if I mentioned that. Of the Richard Rorty. And then I also... I also have some William Blake poems. So we'll just see here. That ought to work. We're going to check on some sprockets here. As I suspected. We're going to go with that. Sometimes what we do in the modern age is we oh, but it's sad then. It doesn't sound through. But anyway, I've been enjoying reading, especially this Richard Rorty. Irony indeed. You know, he seems, I think, and perhaps it's a trait of ironists, I'm not sure. But like Nietzsche, he seems to be writing to his own words. You know, when at least in the gay science, when I read that one, I developed the strong impression, I mean, especially towards the end, that Nietzsche was writing, was in a dialogue with the words themselves that he was writing. And, you know, towards the end, I think it might even be one of the very last aphorisms in the gay science. He talks about the black marks. I think he pretty much says that he's talking to his own writing, which I think is you know, pretty nifty. And so then, but Richard Rorty seems to be doing a little bit of the same kind of thing, which, you know, which sort of makes sense, since I think he places himself in that tradition. But on that side of the Nietzschean tradition, I suppose you have to say. But yeah, so that's the impression I get, is that he's kind of writing to his own words. Which I mean, I guess is really like ends up being what you're doing, right? If you're really doing it, then you're really then like the first dialogue is the dialogue with the I guess we would call it craft. And imagine the poor writer, you know, so full of words and no interlocutor. You know, you would naturally begin relating to this thing that you were in the process of creating. Is that, maybe everybody says this? I don't know. Like, is that what people say? Comment, like, and subscribe to let me know. That's the Oh God. Okay. Well, that's just. All right. Oh, but that sounds nice, actually, doesn't it? Sounds very very appropriate. Laden with fruit and stained with the blood of the grape, pass not, but sit beneath my shady roof. There thou mayst rest and tune
jolly voice to my fresh pipe. All the daughters of the year shall dance. Sing now the lusty song of fruits and flowers. Bud opens her beauties to the sun, and love runs in her thrilling veins. Blossoms hang round the brows of morning and flourish down the bright cheek of modesty. Till clustering summer breaks forth into singing, and feathered clouds strew flowers round her head. Spirits of the air live on the smells of fruit, and joy with pinions light roves round the garden, or sits singing in the trees. Thus sang the jolly autumn as he sat, then rose-girded himself, and o'er the bleak hills fled from our sight. But left his golden load
We had an accident in the sprocket department today. Back to reality. We good? Good? Yeah? All right. The rise of literary criticism to preeminence within the high culture of the democracies, its gradual and only semi-conscious assumption of the cultural role once claimed successively by religion, science, and philosophy, has paralleled the rise in the proportion of ironists to metaphysicians among the intellectuals.
This has widened the gap between the intellectuals and the public. For metaphysics is woven into the public rhetoric of modern liberal societies. So is the distinction between the moral and the merely aesthetic, a distinction which is often used to regulate literature to a subordinate position within culture, and to suggest that novels and poems are irrelevant to moral reflection. Roughly speaking, the rhetoric of these societies takes for granted most of the oppositions which I claimed at the beginning of chapter 3 to have become impediments to the culture of liberalism. Situation has led to accusations of irresponsibility against ironist intellectuals. Some of these accusations come from know-nothings. People who have not read the books against which they warn others. Are just instinctively defending their own traditional rules. The know-nothings include religious fundamentalists, scientists who are offended at the suggestion that being scientific is not the highest intellectual virtue. And philosophers for whom it is an article of faith that rationality requires the deployment of general moral principles of the sort put forward by Mill and Kant. same accusations are made by writers who know what they are talking about, and whose views are entitled to respect. As I have already suggested, the most important of these writers is Habermas, who has mounted a sustained, detailed, carefully argued polemic against critics of the Enlightenment, for example, Adorno or Foucault, who seem to turn their back on the social hopes of liberal societies. In Habermas's view, Hegel and Marx took the wrong tack in sticking to a philosophy of subjectivity, of self-reflection. As I said in chapter 3, I want to defend ironism and the habit of taking literary criticism as the presiding intellectual discipline against polemics, such as Habermas's. My defense turns on making a firm distinction between the private and the public. Whereas Habermas sees the line of ironist thinking, which runs from Hegel through Foucault and Derrida, as destructive of social hope. I see this line of thought as largely irrelevant to public life and to political questions. Ironist theorists like Hegel, Nietzsche, Derrida, and Foucault seem to me invaluable in our attempt to form a private self-image, but pretty much useless when it comes to politics. Habermas assumes that the task of philosophy is to supply some social glue which will replace religious belief, and to see Enlightenment talk of universality and rationality as the best candidates for this glue. So he sees this kind of criticism of the Enlightenment and of the idea of rationality as dissolving the bonds between members of liberal societies. He thinks the contextualism and perspectivalism, for which I praised Nietzsche in previous chapters, is irresponsible subjectivism. Habermas shares with the Marxists and with many of those whom he criticizes the assumption that the real meaning of a philosophical view consists in its political implications. ultimate frame of reference within which to judge a philosophical as opposed to a merely literary writer is a political one. For the tradition within which Habermas is working, it is as obvious that political philosophy is central to philosophy as, for the analytic tradition, that philosophy of language is central. But as I said in Chapter 3, it would be better to avoid thinking of philosophy as a discipline with core problems, or with a social function. It would also be better to avoid the idea that philosophical reflection has a natural starting point. Sub-areas is in some natural order of justification prior to the others. For in the Ironist view I have been offering, there is no such thing as a natural order of justification for the beliefs or desires. Nor is there much occasion to use the distinctions between logic and rhetoric, or between philosophy and literature, or between rational and non-rational methods of changing other people's minds.
I've had enough of Chapter 4 there. We'll start back up maybe in a little while.